Welcome to Tapped In. My name is David Figueroa-Martinez of DFM Coaching, and today we're going to be discussing Jiu-Jitsu's dirtiest moves. I'm going to preface this with the idea that these are not illegal necessarily or dirty in the sense that people are going to get super upset with you. I label these dirty as in they're not your prototypical moves that you will get taught very often. And they're moves that you should probably do either with people you absolutely hate and will never see again, maybe competition, or your closest training partners that you're going to see at the end of class and you're going to laugh about. Some of these I absolutely hate and some of them I absolutely love. And there's one that was done to me that has been seared into my mind and I cannot forget it because it was so gross. That one's probably over the line, way over the line. So I'm going to start off with mother's milk. If you're unfamiliar, you're brand new to jiu-jitsu and you're like, what the fuck is that? Mother's milk is when you use your chest, you're in mount, and you use your chest to smother your training partner in a way where you control their head so they can't bridge, they can't turn left or right, they can't move the openings of their face, and you use your chest to smother them to submission. It's a running joke, and there's also the leche de papa version. I think Tim Kennedy calls it that, other people. And it is, I don't want to say it's vile because I have one on the list that's actually vile, but it's not a fun thing to have happen to you. And it's all fun and games. Like, you accept it because it's going to happen from time to time. It's not the greatest thing in the sense of if they misplace their sternum. So sometimes you get mother's milk and your nose is being pressed into like the bone within the chest. That's not fun at all. That's more of a little rude, I think, in my opinion. But you're going to have some that are legitimate. You just can't breathe. You're not in pain. You're not hurting. You just can't breathe. Those to me are perfectly fine. Now, if you've never been mother's milk by a woman, that's a whole nother set of like level to evilness. I have a woman that does this to people, and it is hilarious to watch. It's funny to watch. I don't like being mother's milked regardless. And it's one of those things where you think you're safe in mount and then all of a sudden you can't breathe. There's a sense of fear that happens there where you're just like, I can't, and you're gasping and you're trying to move from left to right, just get a little bit of air and you just can't. It's a little bit of an equalizer because if your positioning is just right, if you understand how to immobilize someone and the hands are no longer in place, like for me, for example, when I'm in a bottom of mount, I have one of my arms towards the waist, my opponent's waist, and I don't want them to crawl up and get high mount. And then my other arm is sometimes guarding against grips along the collar or under the neck or whatnot. And if you do it just right, you can pin the arm that's along the waist and you can pin the arm that's defending against the collar. And when you can do those things, like the student that I have in mind, it is disheartening. I can't believe I'm about to tap to this. It's a headache. It's a legitimate pain in the ass. And you thrash around, gasping, and then you get to a point where you're just like, all right, I'm done. And you just tap. And sometimes it's hard because your arms are trapped. So then you tap with like just slamming your foot on the ground, which is even more embarrassing. So not a fun one. I've never done it to anyone, I don't think. I'm trying to remember. I'm not a leche de papa or mother's milk player. Maybe I should be. Now, the one that I do all the time, and I'm notorious for it on Threads because anytime I see a video of it, I repost, I make jokes about it, I talk about it consistently. It is, with my Thread friends, it is the thing that I'm kind of known for. And that's the muffler. The muffler is when you are, doesn't even matter what position you're in actually, you just cover someone's nose and mouth so they can't breathe. You can have someone's back. You can be in mount. You can be in half guard, top. Sometimes I do it from bottom just to like get someone to move. So you can do this from several different positions. And there's no big strategy to it. You are just covering their mouth and nose. And the way you cover it is kind of up to you. Sometimes I just do the mouth, and then I press, like, if my thumb is facing down, which it naturally is, I'm in mount. I cover the mouth, and then I use the bottom side of my hand where the pinky knuckle is, and I just slide it up and cover the nostrils. Other ways, I just cover both. Sometimes you use both of your hands, like if you have the back. And what I find with it is, it makes me giggle every time. It more often than not makes the other person laugh, because within the circles that I'm in, it is the dumbest fucking thing to do, but it's so silly that people just kind of laugh. If you're really adamant about, like, if I have the back and you won't let me get under your chin, and I don't like rear naked choking people's faces. I just don't. I find it really rude, and it's kind of ugly. I understand why it happens in competition. It's not my preference. I'd rather get under the chin. So what I'll end up doing is muffling. And if you get a good seal, they need to get that hand off. And sometimes you have the hands trapped. Maybe you use your legs or your free hand. And when they thrash around, they bring their head up, their chin comes up, and then you can come underneath and get the rear naked choke or get the grip on the collar. I find it incredibly useful. Again, I do not do this to people I just met. I don't do any of this shit to people I just met. I don't want to. I don't want to create adversaries. I don't want to create nemesis. I don't do any of those things. But I do this with people who I'm really close to. And the other day, I forgot who I did it to. I think I did it to Mark at Five Peaks. Mark is a villain. Big guy. He will grab your hand and wrist in ways and start wrist locking you from positions that you should not be wrist locked in. So I feel like there's a villain level to him that allows me to then, you know what, if you can do that, I should be able to muffler you. And there was one day recently, a couple weeks ago, where I was in this position. I was like, do I do it? Do I do it? I think we're close enough that I could do it. But I don't want to piss him off because, fuck, you marking around is a battle. I don't want an angry Mark. I just did it, and it was a little bit of a joke, and we both laughed. But it's one of the things that I love doing just for shits and giggles. It's gotten so bad at my morning program that they have dubbed it the CPAP, because so many of us actually need a CPAP to sleep. And we were discussing it one day. Oh yeah, I'm on mine. I'm using this, and I'm using that mask and this mask, and we're trading like insider tips and shit. And then it just became the thing, and we just started calling it the CPAP. It really kind of fits the mechanics. My next one that I just loved using is the wrist lock. The wrist lock, when I came up, was almost viewed like heel hooks were at one point. Not to the same level, but they were not looked at favorably. You weren't supposed to go out there and do toe holds and heel hooks and wrist locks. They were kind of the same family. It was viewed as a cheap submission and something you shouldn't be doing. So it wasn't until later in my career that I started developing a wrist lock attack. And I'm not a wrist lock the world guy, but I love to use them for the similar reasons that I like using the CPAP / muffler. It's shits and giggles. I will extend your arm, have a fully locked in arm bar, and then just flick your wrist and get that tap instead. If I go omoplata and you roll and I come up, so now you're on your back and I'm on my knees, but I have your arm trapped, I'm going to incentivize you, and that's a term that we have it in the morning program. I'm going to incentivize you by attacking your wrist, not 100%, not to injure you, not even to get the sub, but to make you do something that I need you to do. And when I get to that position specifically, I start to flick the wrist, and they'll bring the other arm over to protect it. And that's when I go Kimura grip on that arm. and we started attacking that arm for various submissions that I like. So I thoroughly enjoy a good wrist lock when I have the back and I get a 2-on-1 on the near side arm. You can go arm bar there. Sometimes I just go a little wrist lock, and the person giggles, I giggle. It's not really meant to get the sub. Sometimes I do, but it's not really meant to get the sub. It's just to kind of like make things a little lighthearted. And it's also to kind of show you, hey, if I wanted the sub, I could have got it here. And it kind of creates a more realistic training session because so many of us kind of ignore wrists. And I remember Roy Harris was a big proponent of wrist locks, and he would push for them and said, hey, why are we ignoring this position, this spot? And then it wasn't too long later, or was it more recent? I saw a video where he was being a proponent of finger locks. That's a bit too far for me. I got to work. You got to work. We got to type and write and pick things up and put them down. I don't want to go for your fingers. I just don't. But I go for a wrist lock. Nothing hard. I'm not dropping my weight on top of it. I'm not creating. I don't think I've ever injured anyone with a wrist lock. It's usually supreme controls and then some pressure. The impaler is something that I have come across, and I don't use it often. If you are in knee on belly, traditionally most people do not use knee on belly in a way that really attacks someone's safety. It's more of a stay in place, hold them down. You're using more of the shin than the kneecap. And there isn't a ton of weight coming down from most people. There are a few people that I've trained with that know how to use that position very well. And they'll get a reaction out of me because the minute they go there, it's painful and I start to move. Most people use it as a hold down, something to just kind of get your points, set up something else, but it's not uncomfortable. The impaler is brutally uncomfortable. You are driving your kneecap all the way through down to their soul. And there's a couple of different ways you can do that. You can do it completely on the chest. You can do it in the solar plexus. You can do it in the gut. Like if you're on knee on belly and you want to go for, let's say, baseball bat choke, great one. And they're defending with the hands. And you can't quite get the second hand in, or maybe they're not allowing you to drop the elbow. You start impaling them with your kneecap. You start driving that weight into them. What they're going to have to do is they're going to have to ignore the major threat, which is baseball choke. They're going to bring their hands down to your kneecap, and they're going to want to push that off. The minute you do that, you go baseball back choke, which I taught just yesterday. You can do this you can do it with your other knee. You can kind of attack the point of someone's ribs. I don't necessarily suggest it. People have been injured from knee on belly. I generally use it not as a sub or not as something that I want someone to hate life about, but to get them to move and get them to address my knee instead of addressing my grips up top. Neck smother. This is one that I find there's two versions of it, or I've heard the name used for two different things. And part of this is going to be in part to the impaler. When you're in north-south and you're trying to set up, let's say, red cutter. If I am attacking on my right side, so my right arm is under their armpit and grabbing the back of their collar, if you can picture bread cutter. Sometimes they defend really well there. And there is a submission where you can place your left knee into the side of their neck and then drive down. If I remember correctly, and I think I'm going to attribute that to Jenna Bishop, because if I remember correctly, she's the one who did that to me quite often. She is 100 and I think she competes at 130, 125, something like that. And I'm considerably heavier than her, not a tall individual, but she would do this to me and it would drive me nuts. And then I started doing it to other people and I understood why it works so well. If you're going for like that bread cutter, if you're doing anything from north-south and they're completely flat, there's a space between their jaw and their shoulder where your knee fits perfectly in that space. And your job is to start pressing down, and and it acts like a choke. Your knee getting pressed into that spot. Either they are going to try to shove you off, which I think exposes the arms and other things, or they're going to submit. The next mother that I am trying to get at, which is going to be the last submission that we talk about today, is the nastiest submission that I've ever experienced. Not nasty because it was going to injure me or rip off a limb or any of those things. My coach from when I started at an actual academy, he one day, and I don't know if we were doing no gi or if it was gi, I don't remember. It was hot. And he used the side of his neck to smother my nose and mouth. I want you to picture what that might feel like if you've never experienced it, and most of you have not, and I pray that you never do. You are sweaty. You're gasping for air because you've been going hard. I think at the time I was either a white or just recently promoted to blue belt. He was a black belt, and he got to mount, if I remember correctly, and then he started driving his weight down and used his bare, sweaty neck to suffocate me. At one moment, I was breathing, and then the next, it felt like someone put a bag over my head. You're breathing normally, and you're mid-inhale, and then the skin just covers your ability to breathe, and it halts it in such a way that is so unnatural to jiu-jitsu. Like, you know when a rear naked choke is coming, you know when a collar choke is coming in, and they rarely stop you breathing immediately. They create choke points along your arteries. Some of them, if you're doing a rear naked choke, and maybe it's more across the Adam's apple, there are a few submissions that I've experienced that cut off your breathing within 1 second. That stopped everything for me. I was literally inhaling. His skin made contact. It stopped everything at that point. So like if you've ever swallowed wrong and then your air is not coming in, it feels like that, times 10 maybe. And I remember immediately panicking and tapping right away or soon thereafter. But I remember thinking, what the fuck was that? I couldn't breathe. And then he got up and looked at me and laughed. Like if I could personify level of evilness, like that's up there. Along friendly lines, that's up there. I've never been able to do it. I've never been able to muster up the courage to do it. I don't feel comfortable. I don't know if I could live with myself. And I wrist lock and muffler people. And I think that this one's too much. I can't do it to someone. And I hope none of you have experienced it. And I hope none of my students drive me to the point where I'm going to have to do this. But also, I'm an introvert and a bit of a germaphobe, and I don't like certain positions. I don't want anyone on my neck. If self-defense wise, that's a terrible way to go. Like, take a bite. You know what I mean? Like that. But in the sportive things, man, was it terrifying. Terrifying. The act of someone's sweaty skin is stopping you from breathing. Terrifying. Fucking disgusting. If there are any that I missed or that you guys have come across that maybe I've never come across, I would love to hear them. Shoot me a message, respond to the comments, whatever you want to do. Do these at your own discretion. Be nice to people. Do these to people you just absolutely hate in competition or people you love in the training room that you're going to look at and just, you're both going to laugh. Don't hurt anybody, obviously, but most of these, except the last one, are things that I love doing to people on occasion, not all the time. Until next time, if you have any questions, hit me up, dfm.099 on Instagram and Threads. Thank you so much. Later.